Welcome to In Her Voice. My name is Kelly Covert, and I am passionate about helping women live authentically by listening to their inner voice. Get ready to be inspired by women of all walks of life that have set aside their should-bes and not good enoughs and are standing in their true voice, the voice of wisdom that each and every one of us has inside. Hey, you guys, welcome back to In Her Voice. If you've been wondering where I've been with new episodes the past couple of weeks, I just had a lot going on in my world, and I decided that I was going to take a little break from In Her Voice, but I am so glad to be back with you. And of course, I have another amazing guest here today. Mary Shores is here to talk with us about the fascinating science of personal development. And let me tell you something, I totally geeked out in this episode. I love this stuff so much. It's so cool to me how what we sometimes can maybe think of as being sort of like woo-woo is really scientifically based. And there are studies that show how our bodies literally change when we're working on improving ourselves, which is super cool to me. Before we get to that interview, I want to share something I am really excited about. And this for me really is the culmination of, probably 3 or 4 years of creative work, of visioning, of manifesting. And guess what? It is finally here. And that is the mastermind. Oh my gosh, I am starting a mastermind in June. And I cannot wait. It really I feel like it's a dream that's been coming true for a long time. And here we are, and it's becoming real. And I'm so excited. So I wanted to share this with you. This mastermind is specifically for women who have a big idea inside of them and are ready to bring that into reality, to begin to activate that idea and bring it to fruition. And, I really, when I thought about this, I thought, who is going to be the right woman for this mastermind? And I really sat with it. I really got very still and I asked my inner voice, and it came to me. It is a woman who has a heart of service, who is ready to serve, and who knows she was made for this. So it is by application only, because I really want everyone to be very clear that this is going to be a good fit for them. And in addition to the mastermind group, which is going to be an online group that meets twice a month, where you are really going to be held accountable to put your idea into action, and you're going to be with other women who are doing the same. So what we are creating is a cycle of receiving coaching, receiving ideas, receiving encouragement, receiving accountability, and also of giving of all of those things and your expertise to the other women that are in the circle. And I am thrilled to open this up to you guys. So if this is really ringing a bell for you, if you're really feeling a pull, I encourage you to go take a look at the website, kellycovert.com/mastermind. That's all one word, mastermind. And fill out an application. Once you fill out the application, we'll schedule a little call and we'll chat to see if it would be right for you. And if you're unsure, I encourage you to still go and fill out an application, because I'm really being open to the women that God is bringing into this group, because I feel that it definitely has a divine purpose, and I cannot wait to welcome you into it. So again, that link is kellycovert.com/mastermind, all one word. And there's a live link right in your podcast app that you're using. So if you are ready to go fill out that application right now, don't wait. Go do it. Press pause. Go do it right now. It will only take a minute, and then come back and listen. So today, like I said, Mary Shores is on the podcast with me, and she is amazing. Let me tell you a little bit about her. Mary Shores spends her career as an author, speaker, and entrepreneur, generating positive and pragmatic solutions for people who are freaking out. Mary blends personal experience with her extensive knowledge of neuroscience and human behavior to guide businesses and individuals to defeat the freak out and create their ideal life. And let me tell you guys, you are gonna love it. There's so much good stuff here. So take a listen, and I will see you on the other side. Mary Shores, I am so glad that you are here on In Her Voice. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you, Kelly. I'm so excited to meet you today.
Yes. Yeah. We already had like a fantastic conversation before this. So now let's dive in to the neuroscience of personal development. And where I wanted to start with this was asking you where your love of personal development began.
I consider myself that's someone that's always been sort of a seeker and a learner. And so I would say that it was just always part of my life, the type of person who wants to grow and expand. And so personal development gave me a pathway in order to do that. And so I started off with that pretty early on, but also I would say that it grew into a love of science and like understanding it through science, and then also spirituality. And then always being able to see the connections between the two, and just knowing that science and spirituality are really one and the same, but they're using two different languages to explain the happenings.
Yeah, I love this. And I think that my listeners will vouch for me when I say I really go deep into the spiritual side. Some might call it woo-woo, and I'm totally fine, and I own that. But I think it's also just worth exploring this scientific side of the coin, as you say, because I think that when we start to realize it is not just magic, right? It's not just like this fairy dust that we sprinkle, but like there are actual things that our brain is doing on a regular basis that keeps us stuck and sabotages us, and we don't even realize it.
That's so true, especially like whether it's not just the sabotaging us, it's sabotaging us and it's propelling us forward and every single thing in between.
Yeah. So let's get into that. So when we're talking about what we want, like what we desire, what our what we think our brain, our conscious brain, I guess we should call it, wants to have in our life. Maybe it's to push into a new career, or to create a business, or to lose weight, or to create any new habit. What happens when we do that?
Okay. So that's a beautiful question. And I think that we're living in a time and space in our culture where we're willing to accept that infinite possibilities are available for all of us. And I think that it's also worth noting that a lot of us, when we think of terminology of infinite possibilities, we kind of assume that that means something good is going to happen. Like we're going to reach our highest potential, like something amazing is going to happen. But the reality is that with infinite possibilities existing, the truth is that that's a spectrum of anything at all, meaning that I can reach my highest potential or I can fail miserably. Would you agree?
Totally, 100%.
So the trick is the way that we're using our subconscious is like, how do we figure out how to connect ourselves and our outcome to those things that are more desirable versus constantly swirling in the chaos and uncertainty of all of just like what seems to be uncontrollable circumstances. And so like, let me illustrate it this way. I'm going to tell like just a couple of different ways. But the other day I was getting a massage at my friend's house, and afterwards I walked into the bathroom and I turned the light switch on. And then I immediately had this awareness, like, I don't know why I just turned the light switch on because it's not dark in here. So she had a window in her bathroom. Mm-hmm. All right. So I immediately then realized, well, the reason I turned the light on is because 90% of the bathrooms that I walk into don't have windows or natural light. And therefore, because they're dark, it's a habit. Without even thinking about it, I just turn the light switch on. Now, what does this have to do with personal development? Everything we do runs on a program, everything. And so just like I was compelled to turn that light switch on, our habits and our personality and things like that we habitually do every single day comes from our thoughts, comes from our beliefs, comes from our words, and like works together to shape our reality. And so when stimulus A happens, our response is always going to be B, C, D, right? But here's the beautiful thing. We're the ones who get to install the program. So part of the way that we can do that is with our words. So like my own, like a story from my personal life is that for 10 years, I wanted to write this book. And the thing is that I would even go around and I would say to anyone who would listen, I want to write a book, but I'm not a writer. And so it's like when words are a mirror to our subconscious programming. So it's like when you hear me say the words, I want to write a book, that you can see that written on my soul, like a purpose that I've come into this life in order to write this book and to like share this universal knowledge. But on the other hand, I have a big problem when the next words out of my mouth are, but I'm not a writer, because that's also revealing something in my subconscious programming that is a belief system that as long as I am saying those words, I'm actually reinforcing the belief that somewhere, somehow, I don't think I'm actually capable of writing a book. And so this isn't about writing, but it's like what you were saying. How often do we say, I want to do this, but I don't have that? Or I want to open my business or change my career, but I don't have the credit or the money or the support or whatever is our but excuse.
Yeah.
So there's a way that you can work around that.
Okay.
By like, so for me, first of all, it's a little bit about getting out of your comfort zone, because your established programming is comfortable. That's what we're used to. You're used to following that path. We have 60,000 thoughts a day, and the majority of them are identical to the day before. But the moment you step out of that rote programming and you do something different, like you take a step, I always say, like, if you just take a step in the new direction, then like the universe, God, or whatever you believe will like come in and meet you halfway. And so what I did was invest in myself by going to a writer's workshop. And the moment I did that, I planted a seed in my subconscious that as soon as I started watering and feeding that seed, that could begin to build a new neural pathway. If you kind of picture like neural pathways, like a garden, and the garden grows according to what seeds are planted.
Oh, I love that visual. I've never heard it described like that before, but that is perfect. Like, and then you can really decide what seeds you want to plant and what seeds you want to nurture.
That's absolutely correct, because like I'm always saying that, positive words plant seeds of a positive outcome, and negative words plant seeds of a negative outcome. And like, it can't be any other way. Like, I can't say I'm not a writer and then expect to have a best-selling book.
Yeah. Well, good. So here's a question for you. When you bump up against subconscious programming, like yours was, I'm not a writer, where did that come from?
Well, I mean, who knows? And what does it matter? It came from whatever that seed was planted. I mean, like, here's the thing. We all believe that we need to go into years of psychotherapy or uncover our whatever blocks, which is a bunch of, to me, like made up stuff. But it's interesting because I've been getting into these conversations with people lately that are talking about money blocks. And I just want to say to your audience, there's no such thing. That's a made up thing. Somebody made that up, and they're going to charge you money to like heal your money block. Don't listen to that. But the truth is that, okay, so I could spend years of therapy and try to evaluate or uncover who in the second grade told me that I wasn't a writer, or maybe I got an F on a paper that I like poured my little second grader heart out to, or I could just right now, right here today, plant a new seed.
Yeah.
So you don't have to necessarily unravel every moment of your life in order to move forward. But what you can do as the workaround is to start the new neural pathway.
I love that, because it feels so much easier than figuring everything out. And I think that sometimes we feel that, like, we feel like it has to be hard or it's not worth it, right?
Which is another belief installed by our culture. I mean, that's just like everything runs on a belief. Like, it's so interesting to me. I'm fascinated. And, like we were talking a little bit before the show that we both have sons on the spectrum. And I don't know about you, but like, I can tell you that raising a child on the spectrum has contributed massively to shaking every belief that I ever had about life.
Oh my gosh, 100%, Mary. I am so thankful for my son because I have learned more from being his mother than anything else that I have done.
Oh my gosh, you're going to make me cry right now. So, but like, let me go a little bit deeper into that and how it affects our belief system. So like, I don't know how old you are, but since our sons are relatively like in the same age group, we're probably in the same generation.
I'm 43.
Okay, I'm 44. So we're both Gen Xers. And so Gen Xers are, you grow up, you get your diploma, you go to college, you start a career, you meet your person, you get married, you have a family, you buy a house, maybe you get divorced, you have your problems, you have a crisis, you have a breakdown, and then you start over. Like that's what we expect to have happen in our life. And for the most part, it's exactly what we see having happen. But like what shook it up for me was that having that child on the spectrum, because I'm raising now a son where there is no rule book. And like I had to drop every expectation that I ever had in my entire life. So like, here's what this looks like. I came from a very athletic family. And I remember early on, one of the most crushing things to me, and this sounds so ridiculous looking back, but like I was heartbroken that my son was not going to be the basketball star.
Mm-hmm.
And he was never going to be on the sports team. He was never going to be like this popular outgoing kid. And that was difficult for me because like, I mean, when I was 10, 11, 12, I was working in the concession stands. I mean, I just had the epitome of a sports family.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was like what I'm talking about with an expectation. And when I saw him doing things that was so far out of the norm of my own life, it was like, what planet did this child come from, for one? But also, why did I think he needed to be like everybody else?
Yes.
And shaking and just understanding that everything and every way that our world is designed is built around these constructions of our belief systems that we hold not only individually, but also collectively. So like the way that the school system works, he does not fit in to that scenario, but he also doesn't necessarily need the same type of book learning. And it's just like, I've gone way off on a tangent here, but what I'm really trying to say is that everything we do is built on a belief system. And the way that you really take control and go after exactly what you want. Kelly, people are fascinated because I have come from a life of absolute turning the utmost tragedies into triumphs. I mean, I was out on my own at 16 years old with absolutely no resources or no guidance. I lived through the very tragic death of my first child and still was able to turn around and start my own business at 24 years old and build a pretty massive empire. And just and I did that because of the choices that I made and because of like the way that I was running my life. But I needed to have those things come in and shake me to my core.
Yeah, I feel like that's what the birth of my son did for me. It just cracked me open. It cracked open this knowingness that it doesn't have to look like what you think it was supposed to look like. And by doing that, by allowing that for me, it really helped me to love myself, to say to myself, hey, you're worthy right now. Like, this is exactly who you are. Like, you don't have to be this way or be that way. And I love how you put it. You just have to, almost like you have to be willing to shake up your own beliefs. If you really want to see a transformation and a change in your life, you have to say, enough is enough. This is on me.
I love how you just said, like, you realized it doesn't have to be this certain way. And like, what if just for a moment we said, nothing in life has to be a certain way?
Right.
Nothing. So I want to read, because this is going to just be so beautiful to what you just said. There's an excerpt out of Conscious Communications on page 158. And it says like this: I know it's easier said than done, but what if, as an experiment, you tried to be happy just by becoming who you really are, just living it and stepping into it? To get to who you really are, you have to shed layer after layer of who you've been pretending to be, layers of the person that you know deep down you are not. You're shedding layers of your problems, layers of self-judgment, layers of how others have judged you, shedding layers of unworthiness, fear, worry, and unnecessary responsibility, and layers of beliefs and challenges around what other people think you are, or even worse, think you should be.
Okay, we can just call it done. The interview is done. I mean, that is so beautiful. Oh, Mary, I got goosebumps while you're reading that. And this idea of the layers, like a theme that I have found that I've really hold on to in my life is that I feel like I burn those layers off.
Ooh, that's good.
It's like this idea of fire, and it's not always comfortable to do that, right? Like it's sometimes painful, and it sometimes requires us to work hard at it, and it requires us to, like you say, like do the different thing. But I do think that the more we shed those layers, the more we burn them off, the more we are exactly who we were born to be.
I believe that. And the reason that I thought of that passage out of the book, because you just so beautifully led me there, is like that it is about trying to get on this path of your purpose. And purpose has sort of grown into this thing in our culture today, that it's become this elusive thing that's sort of hiding behind a curtain, and that we have to go through all of these painful experiences in order to discover our purpose somehow, but like it's so interesting to me, because the thing that I discovered is that it is your true, like your purpose is whatever it is your natural skills, gifts, talents, and abilities. And that it's really the rest of the world that's tried to convince you something different.
Yeah. And we're so busy believing that we can't see how amazing we already are.
Absolutely.
Oh, so good. All right. So we are most of the time convincing ourselves that we don't have what it takes just by our thoughts and what we are believing. So I think that the next question is, how do we plant the seed, but then how do we water that seed? How do we nurture it? How do we make those new neural pathways grow?
So one of my favorite sort of taglines, if you will, is I love to tell people this, that everything you say, everything you do, every word that comes out of your mouth, every choice you make, every action you take in the thinnest sliced moment of life is either creating that deeper connection to what you want, or it's driving a disconnection. And the easiest way that I know to teach anybody how to do this is like, okay, we've got the seed planted. Like we've gone to the workshop, we've bought the book, we've invested in whatever. And I call this cleanser clog. And it's actually chapter 5 in Conscious Communications teaches you how to do this. But like, imagine that everything you do is either cleansing or clogging. And a great way to explain this is like, let's say I'm on a diet, which I actually am right now. So it's perfect. We know intuitively, whatever I'm going to put in my mouth is going to either cleanse me or clog me. So if I want to lose 20 pounds, I can look at an apple and know that there's nutrients in an apple that are going to cleanse my body. And in the same respect, I can look at a Snickers bar and I can say, I know that the nutrients in a Snickers bar are going to clog me. So every time I put something in my body, I can just literally say, is this going to cleanse me or is this going to clog me? And the same rule applies to every area of life. So, for example, in your personal relationships, especially with your significant other, what if you understood that everything you say, everything you do, every word that comes out of your mouth, every action you take, every choice you make in that relationship is either cleansing it and creating a deeper connection, or it's creating a clog and driving a disconnection? And once you really understand that, you're understanding that free will and the power of creation is actually coming in your moment to moment choices. In every moment, we are literally creating our realities, and this is the way we're doing it. And so how are you cleansing and clogging your finances or your career? So how are you cleansing or clogging your spiritual growth or your, wellness? So once you understand that principle, I think it's really important also to mention that I've got this like 80-20 rule, meaning that this is not about perfection.
Thank you so much.
Were you worried for a second?
Well, what was coming up for me as a recovering perfectionist, my listeners know I own that fully, was like,
Me
my
too.
gosh, that's so overwhelming. Every choice matters. And so I'm so thankful that you said this. Keep going.
Yeah. So like I give myself this 80-20 rule. And what that looks like is if 80% of the time I'm making cleansing connected choices, then 20% of the time really isn't going to make that much of an impact. And so another thing is that everything, I'm assuming you like to talk about manifestation.
Yes, love it.
And that is one of my favorite things to talk about because I am an extremely powerful manifester. As a matter of fact, I was on stage with Abraham Hicks in the hot seat, and she looked at me and said, "You are one of the most powerful creators we've ever encountered." And it's so true. I mean, it's like spooky at times. So here's my point. How am I doing that? And reason why I know that I was put here on the earth is to take universal knowledge and teach it to other people so that you guys can also learn how to manifest from a place of empowerment. Because you're also, I think we think about manifestation as in when we get things we want, but the truth is we're manifesting in every moment of every day. Mm-hmm. And so we have to own that. And if it's overwhelming, oh well. But understand this, that what if 80% of the time you're always manifesting connections to what you want? Then I think we can accept that 20% when we kind of screwed it up, or we ate the Snickers bar, or we drank the glass of wine, or we had the piece of chocolate lava cake, or we blew up on our husband, or whatever, because it is not about perfection. But if you can tip the scales in your favor, this is absolutely how you change a possibility into a probability.
Ooh, I love that. Okay, so I'm so excited. I feel like my thoughts are going a mile a minute.
Let's have them.
So we're doing this. We're really understanding that every single choice makes a difference. Every single choice takes us closer to where we want to be or further away from where we want to be. So where does the science part come in?
So I think that the science part comes in is to understand that it's all, the choices are being controlled by our programming. Okay. So it's really hard to make a choice outside of your comfort zone. Would you agree?
Totally.
So have you ever so when I was talking about the bathroom light switch, so have you ever done the experiment where you move the garbage can from under your desk?
No, but I can completely imagine if we moved our kitchen garbage can, which is under our sink. And in fact, sometimes my husband, when he takes the garbage out, he will take the whole thing, and then I will just throw something under
away.
The counter. Yeah,
right.
Even though the garbage is not there.
Or have you ever been going to a medical office or an appointment, and they moved their location, and you drove to the wrong place? But
oh yeah, I was thinking something else that I will not even tell you how often happens because I get really distracted by my own thoughts in the car. Is I will get in and I'll go the wrong way, but it's the way that I normally go.
Right.
And that happens to me a lot too.
And that happens to everyone because we're all sort of built on this similar infrastructure. Okay. So what's happening is that's an example of a behavior that's running on a program. Well, I'll bet you, Kelly, that if I said to you, Kelly, in your mind, I want you to think of a friend that if you called her right now, she would immediately begin to complain about something, either her mother, her boss, her house, something. Do you have that friend?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's a family member, but yes.
Okay. So another human. Yes. So why is that? Why can you predict her behavior or his behavior?
Because that's what she always does.
That's what she always does. And guess what? The things you do are also the things you always do. And the things I do are the things that I always do. And why are we living through the things we always do? It's because we're running these programs. So going back, so here's the science part, right? And I'm just sort of explaining this. We talked about the analogy of a garden. I'm going to switch to a new analogy because I love this one. It's super fun. Imagine that there's like a little Mario man in your head. Do you have the little Mario man?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You know, like from Mario Brothers.
Oh,
so
yes.
there's like this little Mario man in your head. And imagine like that the little Mario man and that your head inside your brain is like all of these cliffs and valleys and mountains. And now all of a sudden, imagine that Mario is like one of those people who climbs mountains and like throws one of those zip lines across and like zips around from mountain to mountain. So building a new neural pathway is difficult because can you imagine how scary it would be to take your little Mario man and like throw a zip line and then like courageously go hurtling through space and face death just to get to the other side of the other peak?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
It's terrifying.
So, but once you do it enough times, let's just say you start to build a bridge. So instead of having to go through the zip line, now you've got a nice bridge and it's really sturdy to walk across. So the science comes in that when you are carving out a new neural network, that's the work. That's what feels sometimes hard and uncomfortable for us. But once you've done it and you've already carved out the path, it's easy to travel that path again and again and again and again. And here's the really incredible part. Once you've sort of primed that in your brain, like that type of behavior, you can replicate it. So let's say that the thing that you want to do this year is start a business, but the thing you want to do 2 years from now is write a book. Well, now your brain is already used to the strategy of getting out of your comfort zone. So the next time you sort of, your risk tolerance goes way up.
Yeah. I love that. And I think, okay, so maybe you can just tell me how you did this, like your personal experience of starting the work of carving the new path. That is the hardest part, like flinging yourself across the chasm, if you will. Where do you find the courage?
So sometimes it takes drastic measures, okay, of flinging yourself across the canyon. Like, let's say you just got a diagnosis and like you have to change now.
Yeah.
Right? That's when you need to take drastic measures. But let's say that for other things, it's just smaller pivots. You know, one of the things that I'm sort of also annoyed about in personal development these days is all of the people who invite you to their transformational weekend. Let's transform your life in a weekend. And the reality is, and I would go to these, I actually consider myself to be a weekend workshop warrior. And I've been to like every goddess retreat, boot camp, date with destiny, you know, I've done it all, like hundreds of workshops. And at the end of these, a lot of times I would look around and all the other people would be like, oh, I've changed my life. And I'm looking in the mirror going, I must have failed because I feel like the same person. But in reality, if I look at that same person a month from now, nothing has really changed. They were just riding high on the emotions of the event. So what I learned from this is that true transformation happens in small pivots over time. So let's talk about synchronicities and intuition for a moment. You don't have to try so hard because like your body, your brain, your mind, your higher self, I mean, whatever language you want to put towards it, it has this innate intelligence and it knows at all times what you need. And when you can learn to tap into that power, all you have to do is follow the guidance system. So when I was talking about changing my internal belief about writing, I really just followed the next step. And the next step was, oh, here's an opportunity to go to a writer's workshop. That doesn't seem so hard. I'll just sign up. And I went and it was kind of fun. And so I was like, oh, that wasn't so bad. I'll go to another writer's workshop. And so it's like, we don't have to think necessarily always about throwing that zip line all the way to the next mountain. But just what if we focus on what is our very next step and focusing on what feels good with the next step, but also could be uncomfortable because it's got to go both ways, folks. It can't be always easy, but sometimes it will be, right? And then when you have the little achievement under your belt, you're going to get this like You're going to get this hit of dopamine and serotonin, and you're going to feel really happy and excited. And that's going to propel you to the next step.
Well, and it comes right back to what you were saying before, that every choice matters. Every time that we make that decision to, reach for the healthy food, to go to the gym this morning, to not hit the snooze button, whatever it is, every time that we make that choice that takes us closer to where we want to be, that's reinforcing that pathway.
It's so true. And I have a very good friend, and for whatever reason, this is coming to mind to share, but I have a very good friend, and she is suffering tremendously with post-traumatic stress because her husband committed suicide and she found him in the basement. And I can't even imagine the programs that are running in her mind. But she really is my person that if I called her, she would start complaining about everything and anything. Because this is the way her perception is programmed right now. And she was calling me one day and doing her typical complaining, and she was mad at the pharmacy. She was like, they don't have my prescription and they're hassling me with this, and the manager keeps saying they're going to call back and they never call back and nobody knows what's going on. And I finally just said to her, Amy, that's not her real name, but I said, Amy, listen, I said, you have a choice right now. You can continue to deal with this and you can just and just be pissed off all the time. I said, or we can take steps to change your circumstances. And my suggestion is that you don't use this pharmacy anymore because you're unhappy with them, and that you find a pharmacy that you can build a strong relationship with. And so that's exactly what she did. She called me the next day. She had found like a mom and pop pharmacy. So it was locally owned. It was actually closer to her house. They even had a delivery service, and they were much able to cater to her sort of higher maintenance way of being. And it was like, that was a choice she made to eliminate that one particular stress. And so I've gone through exercises like that, where another thing is like, what we need to do is eliminate things that are causing us stresses. And oh my gosh, Kelly, I lost track of your original question. I have no idea why I thought to bring up that story.
I think it's so good, because I think what it brings to mind for me, I don't remember what my question was either.
I'm so sorry.
No, what it brings to mind for me is that if we're looking for, it's the kind of person that says something like this. It's always something. It's the always something person. Do you know what I mean?
Yes,
it's always something.
I just remembered the question too, because I think you were saying like, how do we change it? So changing it involves, and you were talking about how different it is. So this is why every choice is powerful. So when you make, and this is, I really believe this, when you choose another door, it's literally that there are 10,000 different doors behind that one that you would have never had access to if you didn't choose that particular door in that particular moment. And this is how this works. So with Amy, it was just choosing a different pharmacy, right? But with me, it was something that, if I hadn't gone to that writer's workshop that one day, I wouldn't be sitting here chatting on your podcast. Because my life would look completely different. And a lot of times, like as an exercise for your listeners, one of the things you can do is you can reverse engineer this. You can go back to moments in your life and say, like here's one for me. When I was about 20, I had a job as a telemarketer. And I can absolutely tell you that that job was on my path, because if I had not had that job as a telemarketer, I would not be where I'm at today. And I know that it sounds so silly to say that, but that job as a telemarketer is one of the very first places that I learned to understand the power of words.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And what it brings to mind for me is this. Sometimes your choice may just be to look for the good. It doesn't have to be a complicated choice. Just saying to yourself, today I will look for the good. Today I will expect something amazing to happen to me. Like it could be as simple as that. And so I just love that so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I feel like I want to have you back on at some point to dig into this even more, because I think it's so powerful. And we mentioned this, we talked about this before we started recording, but how some people really need to understand the science of this. Like, you guys, this is not magic. This is not magic. This is science. This is how our brains were created to work. And if we know this, then we have the power to make those changes and to really live the life that we dream of, live the life that we most desire. And that's what I desire for all of you, for each and every one of you. Oh gosh, Mary, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you my last question that I ask everyone. And I think this will be super interesting coming from you. When we talked about intuition, we talked about connecting to that deep place of wisdom within, which I call my inner voice, your inner voice. So in your life right now, what is your inner voice saying to you?
So Kelly, I just got chills from your question. And this is, so when we have our follow-up show, I'm going to share with you like the amazing, just opening up of sort of, even I'll use the word mystical experiences that I've been going through. But my inner voice is sharing with me that it's time for me to take all of my leadership skills as a CEO for the last 20 years and really begin to teach people who are influencers what leadership is truly about. Because I was actually just at this conference and they were literally talking about spiritual entrepreneur leadership. And like their biggest piece of concern was how to post on Instagram.
Oh.
And it was kind of scary, but you know what? This is what it means to me. There is a generation out there that needs leadership because they so badly want to make an impact. And I don't mean bad in a bad way, but you know, like their whole being, their whole reason for living is to make an impact. And I'm really feeling myself pulled in the direction of teaching them what real impact means. And it's not about what you post on Instagram.
Oh my gosh. I love it. I love it. That is an amazing vision. And I am all about supporting visionary women for helping get your voice out there. And I just really believe this, and I will hold this vision with you. I'm so excited to see what you're going to do with it.
Oh, yay. And it's not just about people in influencers, but like for all of us to understand that the way to make our impact in the world is to follow our own skills, gifts, and talents. And the more that you follow that, and the neuroscience supports it, the more you follow what you're good at doing, the stronger those skills are going to get. And it will lead you to like a much greater place of prosperity.
Oh, I love it. I love it. All right. Why don't you let everyone know how they can connect more deeply with you?
I would love to. So, you know, if you resonate with this interview, my big ask is that if you check out on Amazon or wherever you like to buy books, The Conscious Communications title by Mary Shores, I always say, like, if you read the description and you read maybe even just a handful of reviews, you will absolutely know if this book is for you or not. And if it is, I am absolutely thrilled to support you on your journey. You can find me in my Facebook group, which is called Fearless Ambition. And on any social media, finding me on my website, Mary Shores, SHORES.com, or following my Facebook page, LinkedIn, Twitter, and the aforementioned Instagram.
Fantastic.
Just don't expect me to have a beautiful grid because it's not about that for me.
And we'll link to all of that goodness in the show notes and also in the podcast app. So you should be able to click live links from your phone right as you're listening. So be sure to check that out and connect with Mary and go. I highly recommend the book. Go get it, read it. It will change your life. It will be totally worth it. It will be a choice that will take you closer to where you want to be. I can guarantee it. Mary, thank you so much. And I cannot wait to have our follow-up.
Me too.
Oh, wow. Just wow. I mean, I felt like I could have talked to her for 3 more hours about this stuff, but I really, really hope that you guys had some good takeaways from this interview. One of my favorite things that she said was this idea of a very powerful question that you can ask yourself whenever you have a choice to make. Does this cleanse or does this clog? Wow. I mean, what an easy way to distill down your choice and really make a meaningful, powerful choice in every single moment. Because the truth of it is that every single choice matters. Every single choice you make is determining your life, what your life is going to look like in the future. It determines how you feel. So it's so important to really get this idea in your head and to remember this isn't magic, right? This is not some sort of like you wave a magic wand or you sprinkle some fairy dust and then you've got it. It's actually science and it takes practice. Remember, you're carving that new path with all of the hard work, with every choice that you make. That is a cleansing choice. That is a choice that is a powerful choice. You are carving a new path in your mind, literally in your mind, that will make it easy for you down the road to make more choices that are powerful and empowering to you. So I'd love to hear what you loved the most about this episode. You can always tag me over on Instagram at Kelly J. Covert. I know that Mary Shores is there also, and I will tag her in my post for this. So let us know what your big takeaway is. And let me just use this time to remind you again that if you are being pulled in a big way, if you know that you've had an idea inside of you that you've needed to take action on, but maybe life has just gotten in the way. And you know what? That happens. I totally get it. But now is your time. I want you to take a deep breath right now, and I want you to imagine what it's going to feel like in 3 months when you've written the book, when you've started the podcast, when you've created the thing that has been inside of you your whole life, waiting for this moment when you say yes. If this is you, reach out, apply for the mastermind, and we will talk. We'll see if it's a good fit for you. kellycovert.com/mastermind. I cannot wait. It's going to be so exciting. And for all of you, just a reminder, you matter. What you're doing in this world is important. Your work is important. Your purpose is important, and it doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to feel big. It's still important because no matter what, you are worthy.